is Dr. Charles Parker, and you're listening to CoreBrain Journal. It's a place where I connect both fresh discoveries and interesting different perspectives from advanced mind science with the realities of real people and everyday life down on Main Street.
Well, welcome aboard, folks. Dr. Charles Parker, one more time, hosting here at CoreBrain Journal, where we bring some of the brightest people from international venues to comment on the interesting evolutionary changes that are taking place in neuroscience, psychiatry, mind practices. And today we have a very interesting guest who's going to talk about energy and energy relationships and transformation. She's coming to us from Dubai, and her name is Silk Glob, and also Silk Celia. And Silk, thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Dr. Parker, to inviting me.
It's going to be fun. So what I'm going to do is say a couple of quick words from our sponsor and then formally introduce Silk to you. CoreBrain Journal is supported by Great Plains Laboratory. They are deep international biomedical testing leaders for improved, targeted mind science details, our favorite topic here. As both laboratory and webinar global thought leaders, they provide the most comprehensive set of hard data measurement tools for real biomedical answers beyond guesswork. And they also provide multiple training webinars for both the public and indeed our medical providers who are interested in expanding their thought patterns on how to use this data effectively. Check out their website for references and testing details. And take note here, they do have a special offer. You can register for a complimentary test drawing. These tests are valued from anywhere from $200 to $500, $600. And you can get into a drawing opportunity this week over at this following website and set your name in there. So it's greatplainslaboratory.com/CBJ. I was taking a moment to pause and see if there was something else I was going to tell you about specific tests. They have so much information there about tests. I just hesitated and said, look, let's just send people over there and take a look and see what's happening. So you folks will enjoy them. We have several different people talking here on CoreBrain Journal from Great Plains Laboratory. One of them is at 190. Now, Silk is an interesting person. She's a psychologist who helps refresh people regarding their brain-mind, get this, folks, in 4 hours using super learning techniques. She combines a number of different therapies, including rapid transformation therapy. We're going to hear about all these in just a minute. Theta Healing. Honestly, I don't know anything about this. I'm looking forward to learning with you. Neuro-Linguistic Programming. We've had some other people talk about Neuro-Linguistic Program. And Systemic Constellation. That sounds like a very wonderful, comprehensive approach to create an incredible, powerful program which brings fast change that's sustainable and helps clients to overcome profound personal issues. She trained with pioneering hypnotherapist Marissa Peer to rapidly change limiting patterns of subconscious mind in minutes instead of keeping along the imprinted supportive habits and previous suggestions that have been ruling your life. So she then uses these techniques to uncover the root cause of presented issues by going back in time. So she lives now in Dubai. She's originally from Germany, and she wants to elevate our thinking and behaving so that we can get into the world more completely and lead more effectively into the future. So with that, I'm going to pass the ball over to Silk to have her tell us a little bit about all these different ways of thinking about things and how she decided to take this, if you will, I kind of don't like the word alternative, I would say comprehensive path that she's currently involved with.
Thank you very much, Dr. Parker, for giving me such a nice introduction. And let's start with my premise that I really believe that you can change within minutes by changing your mind and your brain. And before I go into the techniques, I would like to invite you to think about 3 principles of our mind. First, your mind does exactly what it thinks you want. I give you an example. recently I was really fed up with my boss. I could not smell him anymore. And what happened? I got a blocked nose. And why was I really so mad about my boss? Because I felt really not fairly treated. And there is exactly an area in the brain which is called the insula, which reacts when you are not treated in a fair way. So I felt mad. I could not smell my boss anymore. And so my mind thought, let me do something. She can't smell him. Block her nose so that she can't smell him at all. This is the negative side when we give ourselves negative suggestions. Another way is, for example, sometimes I'm in the gym and I'm just 59 kilos heavy, but I lift up 100 kilos, actually. But before I do that, I really imagine I can do it. I already see myself lifting up these weights. And the moment I think, oh my God, I can't manage it, I can't lift them up anymore. So it's actually what you're telling your mind to do. To practice that on your own, you can, for example, sit. It's a very old technique. It was even there before mindfulness came to the market. It's called auto-suggestion.
Auto-suggestion.
Yeah, you know that? Where you just tell your arm, my right arm is very heavy. My right arm is very heavy. And then you go to your left arm, you give yourself these suggestions, and then you continue from your arms to your shoulders and to your legs. It's very, very powerful because this really proves that you can tell with your mind, you tell your body what to do. And this is really a great proof of your mind does exactly what it thinks you want.
That sounds very interesting. I forgot that you can see me. You have the video on, and I couldn't see you, so I didn't know where to take it. Okay. But that auto-suggestion is an important point. I mean, basically and you can train a person to more effectively practice auto-suggestion.
Yeah. And it's also used in psychotherapy. It's used in psychiatry. When I did an internship in psychiatry, this was one of the methods they used, just to train the person when you're in a fear state or some compulsive behavior comes, that you give yourself these auto-suggestions. And you have to train it for some time, but then it comes automatically. You just say, my arms are heavy, and your arms are really heavy already.
Well, that's interesting, yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. The next principle is that your habits of action are in fact a habit of your thoughts. And if you have heard about some neuroscience research where they put these brain scans from people, and you could see that before even people consciously were aware about a decision, a certain brain area was already activated before they even were consciously aware of that. This shows that before you even carry out an action and you're even not aware of your thoughts, there is already brain activity in your brain. This I found very, very interesting. Then I had a client who came to me, and his biggest fear was to be trapped. And he came to me because of his financial situation. With him, I did a hypnotherapy session. So we went back in time and found some quite crucial incidences in his life. But with this belief, what he actually did, the moment he earned some more money, he made sure the money is gone. Because of what? Because he feared to be trapped. The more money he has, this means he has to manage that money. And again, this means less freedom for him. He has to take up in his mind responsibility for his money. And therefore, somehow unconsciously, he made sure that the money got lost. Is this not incredible?
Yeah.
How your mind really tricks you?
Quite
Yeah,
so.
yeah. And during my study time, there was also, just to prove that your habit of action is a habit of thought. When I was studying, I felt very bored sometimes. I needed some distraction. And then my mind told me, I need something crunchy now. If I crunch something, this will help me. Luckily, I have programmed myself that the crunchy thing I needed were carrots or apples. And even during winter time, I went out of the house to find the next grocery to buy 10 apples or 10 carrots, whatever, because I believe just the moment I crunch, I feel much better. Now, take that one to drugs. People who are taking drugs, they're running on the same principle. For them, it is like, okay, I feel not good. I need something to feel much better. And I know the only thing which can help me at that moment is a drug. Or people who are overweight, yeah, who also believe if I eat now something sweet, I feel much more calm.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a proof of your habits of action are, in fact, a habit of your thoughts.
So true.
The
You
last-
know, over here,
Yeah.
so just to interrupt you for a second, what happens in the States, people who've worked in substance abuse recovery, you know, whether it's alcohol, cocaine, marijuana, it doesn't matter. There is a phenomenon called jonesing. I don't know if you're familiar with that phenomenon, but
No, tell me.
many of our listeners would be. And what happens is a person's been using for a long period of time. In fact, I just saw a new person today who's in recovery from alcohol since April. So we're May, June, July, August. So we're only a few months in her recovery, and she had a serious alcohol problem. And we used the word jonesing when we were talking to her because what happens is in recovery, if a person's jonesing, they start thinking about what it would be, and they actually then are guided back into relapsing because there's a certain energy that's tied up with jonesing on the idea. And in the same way, people who use cocaine can jones on powder, even a powder substance on the table can make them think of cocaine and make it and help them go off the beam and go back into a relapse, because on some level that thought then encourages the subsequent action. Just to follow up on what you're saying.
Yeah, and it's the trigger, a certain trigger creates that thought pattern again, and then it's like, it's something you can't control anymore. Yeah?
That's right, yeah.
And a last principle I would really love to share is that your thoughts and feelings you have are often accumulated over a lot of events in your past, and often conclusions you took as a child. And now the end comes and you have not updated it. So you are having thoughts, still living as a 30-year-old, 40-year-old, 50-year-old, based on conclusions you made as a child. Going back to that client I have with the fear of being trapped, the first event we went inside was in his mother's womb, and he felt trapped into it. He felt so squeezed. It was a very early age because he said he could not feel himself. Yeah, he had no body consciousness at that time. But this was the first event. His subconscious mind took him to the event where he felt trapped. Yeah, and out of this, he concluded he is trapped, and other events followed in his life. What also happens that you form out of an event in your brain, in your memory. There's a certain area also in your brain, we call it the hippocampus. And there you have a memory that's often an image with a certain feeling. It's often combined. And the feeling can easily also become a thought. It's created in the same area. Now, the hippocampus is there to keep all your memories, and these memories are even uploaded to higher areas of your brain and somehow interlinked and many associations. And this you have to know, that when you're already a grown up, you already have so many patterns of thoughts you're not even aware of. yeah, and who were used so many times so that this one became a very strong network. Therefore, easily they can be triggered. Yeah.
So true. Yeah, we see that happen all the time. I remember speaking with a person about this who had a Catholic church near their home, and the nuns dressed in the old order habits. And mother said something to him about the nuns and their habit, which was derogatory. And then he had that whole thing in his mind just based on their habits, which are interesting and attractive uniforms in a way. And yet in his mind, he had a negative thought associated with that, which then went all the way over into Catholicism, the Pope and Rome and all this. He went way downwind from just the thought of his mother's negative comment about a person who wore that uniform.
Yeah. A lot of these thoughts we even pick up from our environment, how people, when we are at a young age, like until the age of 7, we absorb so many thoughts because first of all, we imitate others, we watch others, how people are reacting to us. And as a small child, you often refer to yourself. If your mother is not taking care of you at a certain moment, you can't say, mom was busy, therefore she didn't look at me. You always refer it back to you and you say, because I was nasty, because I was not taking the milk of mom and therefore she put me just down. So you always refer it back to yourself until the age of 4, where you can differentiate more between you and others. To sum it up, these are like 3 very crucial principles how our mind works. Now, I have said you have now created awareness. That's the first step. You have to create awareness what your habits or thoughts are. That's the first step. And if you have that awareness, well, what is actually these conclusions? Well, on which programs I am running? Let's say, phrase it like this, on which programs I am running. They are good programs, and there are also programs which are hindering my development. And I have to figure out what are these thoughts. And then I have to disconnect these thoughts. A lot of people believe if you just affirm, just affirm the positive belief, look at the positive side, it will help you. You will create new neural patterns, new programs, but you still have your old programs running. And if you're 35 years old, you have them running already for 35 years. And now you do affirmations for 1 year, the old programs can be easily triggered again. And now, Dr. Parker, my energy methods are coming in.
Aha. So you're going to help us with the disconnection. I can see that coming.
Yes, because now the disconnection comes. What are these programs? These programs are just neural patterns of neurons connecting to others, creating a certain symphony with each other.
Yes.
And how they communicate is through energy. They are chemicals, they are released, and they are taken to the other cell and open. But it's actually energy field is created. And therefore you can also take brain activities because it's electricity in your brain. So we have to disconnect these networks. And I use a method called Theta Healing. It's an energy work where you can really scan into a person's body and you can witness how neuronal networks are being disconnected.
Now, listeners, what she said is Vita, V-I-T-A healing, okay, just so point of clarification.
Yeah, so with this, you can actually disconnect it. Some others, like I trained with 2 different hypnotherapists, they use a little bit different methods, but bringing the old program to the back. And I use this kind of energy healing to really disconnect the network. And I witness, and that's the important part of Theta Healing, you witness that this network is disconnected.
Now, as a person, Excuse me for interrupting. I want to ask you now,
Yes, please.
because I'm following along with you and I'm tracking, and I'm wondering, does a person actually, I'm trying to ask the question that our audience may be interested in as well. I'm interested in it myself, but does a person have to be in a hypnotic state? I think a lot of people are worried about what a hypnotic state is, and do they have to be in a hypnotic state to accomplish this disconnection process so they're not in turmoil by the past. It's running its own kind of automatic plan.
Yeah. A hypnotic state is like a state where you're in a kind of trance. Do you go home on a daily basis and you use the same road?
Yeah.
Dr. Parker?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. Yep.
And in the end, it's like automatic. You just realize, I'm already home. You're not looking at this street and getting really aware of it. It's just passing by. You automatically even drive your car and whatever. And that's a trance state. Or if you're in prayers, if you pray really deeply or in a meditative state, that's a trance state. Or you're in full absorbed in time. You do an activity like surfing, yeah? And you don't even realize time is just passing by. And this gap of time loss, that's a trance state. And in hypnotherapy, you guide the person in a very relaxed state. And there are 3 levels. You have the conscious state. This is when you're aware what's going on, yeah? And also the brain gets a lot of information at that time. Then we have the subconscious mind. This is where we get access to our memories. And the way to go into your subconscious mind is going into a trance relaxed state. And the level under the subconscious mind is the unconscious mind. So a very, very deep sense of relaxation where you may not think anymore. So you're in a very deep sleep. And hypnotherapy is always done when you're still in this kind of dreamy state. Yesterday, a client asked me, so I could still think. I thought hypnotherapy is going deeper, that I'm just blown out. I said, no, this would be an unconscious state. We are operating here on a subconscious state. So the client is very much aware what's going on, because he also has to find the events which caused a certain belief. So it's the client who is finding it. I have no idea where we will end up. I just guide him and say, now we're going back in time and we're looking for the very first event or a vital and vivid event which explains it now, why you have that belief or that feeling. And then you count back, and then the client finds himself in a situation. And the funny thing is, people already come to me and they say, I know how I developed it. I know it was this event with my mother, or it was this event with my colleagues, yeah, or with my peers. When we go back into this hypnosis and they find their events they were not consciously aware of. I had a client, he had forgotten that he once lied on a bed in hospital and was declared dead. And this one, he has forgotten over all the years. The doctor gave him 2 hours and the person could listen what the doctor said to his mother. The doctor said, okay, we just give him 2 more hours, but I don't believe he will wake up. And in hypnosis, he found himself that he wanted to cry and shout out, I'm still alive, I'm here. But he was unable to do it. And luckily, after 2 hours, he actually came out of this unconsciousness.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. And consciously, he would never, ever have thought about it anymore. It's in his 40s, and the event was when he was 13. So it's an age where you actually could remember that. Yeah.
So it's interesting because it sounds like what you're saying is a somewhat novel idea, in that individuals are in trance states all the time. Yeah, I'm asking you this question. I'm not saying this is what you said. I want to have a point of clarification. Yeah. But it's like we carry along preconscious, unconscious, whatever the word would be appropriate, trance states that we have illusions that we're living in based on certain misrepresentations of things that happened in the past. And And what you're saying is, look, let's put the person in some kind of a mental state where they can go back and reprogram that trance state, because they're living in trances all the while. So just doing a somewhat hypnotic trance to reconnect with that previous roadblock, that previous detour, could then help them refine the path that they're really on.
Yeah, and he has actually forgotten consciously. He could not remember. He had just buried that thought. And when you go back, first of all, we find out what the event was. Also with alcoholics or people who are on drugs, you would do the same. You would say, where's the beginning of all that? And a lot of people come up with events when they felt I'm
Today,
not
the world
enough.
of mind science, psychiatry, and mental health is rapidly changing with innovative, comprehensive testing
and you
that
find
takes
it
both
out.
patients
And
and
later, when you
practitioners
have created
into
this
a new
awareness,
world of measured
now these were
details
events,
with useful,
how this
understandable, and
pattern
remarkably
of thought
actionable
was
plans. The
created,
key phrase here
there were
is
definitely other events too.
Testing also introduces a key parallel word,
as an
predictability.
adult and
Psychiatric
changed the
treatment
scene.
failure,
For
especially
example,
after
with
multiple
this man,
medications,
we went back
and our brief
to his event
hospitalizations
of 13
arises
years, and he
directly
said,
from the
I'm
complexity
48
of measurable
years now.
brain-body
I have
imbalances
survived.
and impediments
I have
that
survived.
explicitly
I didn't
interfere
die. People
with
didn't
medical
put me in the
outcomes and
mortuary.
create costly
I'm out of
difficulties
that, and I
with
can
inadequately
express
informed
more what's going on
supplement
in
and
my
medication
life. And
trials
this was very,
over
very
time.
powerful.
Great Plains
for him.
provides a
And even
leadership
in the
team of
scene when he
biomedical
found
experts
himself the first time
with advanced
to
laboratory
release this
insights
pain, he was
approved nationally both by the
crying,
FDA
crying
and
this
clear
fear
laboratory
of being
certifications,
declared
and
dead.
is available
All these
internationally
feelings
for
were
both
still
public
stuck
and
in
medical
his body.
professionals.
And
Great
this
Plains
was
Laboratory is the
very, very
primary
amazing.
laboratory
I let
we've
him
used the
pound
core
and
site for
express
years
what he was
with
not,
excellent
because I
customer
told you
service
he had
for
all
both
these thoughts in
patients
his
and
mind, but he
medical
could not
colleagues.
express it
They
because he
are
was
on the spot. They
unconscious.
get it
But
every
still,
time.
he
In
realized
addition,
what's
they
going
provide
on around
exemplary
him.
training
And this
modules,
is how it
which
works.
are
So it
webinars and
works
conferences,
first to
in an effort to
disconnect the
broaden
old
practice
belief, and it's
perspectives
good to do it in a
wherever
kind
you
of
live.
relaxed state. And
Do
I always
follow up
ask for
on one of
permission.
these complimentary
Before I
test
do
offers
energy
today
work, I ask,
at
am I allowed to pull out that old belief
greatplainslaboratory.com
and implement a new
CBJ. Yeah, that's
positive
CoreBrain
belief?
Journal,
What would be
CBJ.
your positive belief you want to believe in now? And a lot of other therapies use that. You use that in EMDR. You take out the old belief, you make it weaker, and you implement and you reprogram a more positive belief, or not a more positive, a positive belief, which is really encouraging the client.
Yeah, you're going to enjoy listening. Both, I don't know if you've heard this, Silk. We've had some very interesting individuals on who talk about how they can actually have an accelerated response therapy. It's ART, A-R-T. And if you go to CoreBrain Journal and just put ART in that little search box there, we have two different people who are over on the VET site for veterans. We've got CoreBrainJournal.com/vets, V-E-T-S, in which the veterans these people have a specific similar program where they use a combination of Neuro-Linguistic Programming and a rapid response transformational process. Now, the thing that you were talking about, I'm trying to get the name straight here.
It's EMDR. I think EMDR is the pre-successor of ERT. That's a method which is especially used for trauma.
Okay.
And it's called eye movement desensitization. What is it? Eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
Yeah, reprocessing.
Yeah.
Now, how does that differ now? Because I'm looking at the terms that you have that you're talking about. Would you say what you're talking about is rapid transformation therapy?
That's different. Rapid transformation therapy is mostly based on hypnotherapy. And you bring also things in from cognitive therapy and NLP. And this is a name formed, it's by Marissa Peer. That's her method. It's called Rapid Transformation Therapy, based on hypnotherapy, cognitive therapy, and NLP. I put Theta Healing on top, but this eye movement desensitization reprocessing, you also go back to the traumatic event. Sometimes people can't even see it. They just have to swap it like 3 seconds, yeah? Mm-hmm. And if they're able to see the scene, that's again, you see the event, the image, you have a feeling to it and a thought. And then you use eye movements. You're stimulated that you move your eyes from the right to the left in a fast frequency. And this now generates a pattern in your brain to process that event. Yeah, and you will see the client, the picture, the images, the image changes, colors change, and the feelings are changing more and more. And you do it until the client says, this image doesn't disturb me at all anymore.
No, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to ask you this. You mentioned another term there, and we're going to ask you this question when we get back. We're going to take a little break right now. Yeah. And you mentioned theta, Theta, theta healing. And I would like you to just elaborate a little bit on that, how theta healing is related to this series of healing processes that we're talking about. One of the reasons, listeners, I'm so interested in teasing this apart for all of us here is because so much time can be wasted just going over these things in therapy without having the tools to come in and actually think about kind of a reprogramming process in a way that's efficacious and not so time-consuming, and it apparently works. So let's come back in just a moment. We're going to hear about theta healing. So, folks, we'll be back in just a moment.
Today, the world of mind science, psychiatry, and mental health is rapidly changing with innovative, comprehensive testing that takes both patients and practitioners into a new world of measured details with useful, understandable, and remarkably actionable plans. The key phrase here is cost-effective. Testing also introduces a key parallel word, predictability. Psychiatric treatment failure, especially after multiple medications and or brief hospitalizations, arises directly from the complexity of measurable brain-body imbalances and impediments that explicitly interfere with medical outcomes and create costly difficulties with inadequately informed supplement and medication trials over time. Great Plains provides a leadership team of biomedical experts with advanced laboratory insights, approved nationally both by the FDA and CLIA laboratory certifications, and is available internationally for both public and medical professions. Great Plains Laboratory is the primary laboratory we've used at CorePsych for years, with excellent customer service for both patients and medical colleagues. They are on the spot. They get it every time. In addition, they provide exemplary training modules, which are webinars and conferences, in an effort to broaden practice perspectives wherever you live. Do follow up on one of these complimentary test offers today at http://greatplainslaboratory.com/CBJ. Yeah, that's CoreBrain Journal CBJ.
Well, thanks so much, Silk, for this very interesting discussion. And yeah, could you tease apart, please, this theta healing and its relationship? I know you don't know about ART, the accelerator response therapy I was just talking about, but you were talking about a rapid transformation therapy. We know about neuro-linguistic programming. Let's talk about how theta healing fits into all of that, please.
Yeah, theta healing is more like an energy work. It works again on the same principles. You have to find out what is the bottom belief. And in theta healing, you find the crucial core belief by asking further questions. For example, if you have a certain fear, you start, what is the worst thing which could happen? And if this happens, what is then the worst thing then? And how does it make you feel? So you really dig really down. When you have created awareness what really the bottom belief is, then, as I said, it's more energetic work. You pull that belief, and in theta healing, a belief can be on your core level. These are beliefs you accumulated during your lifetime from your childhood onwards. Then you have your soul level. That's the beliefs of your soul when you came here on earth. The third one is genetic level. These are beliefs which are taken over from one generation to the other one, so ancestral beliefs. And then the other one is called history level. This can be past life events. It can be also group consciousness of a whole society, or beliefs you just pick up wherever you are. These are the 4 levels. And then you pull these beliefs wherever it resides. And then it's more a spiritual, that the client is also asked if he has or she has a spiritual connection. It can be God, it can be the universe, it can be life force, a very high energy. And you pull that belief and you ask that high energy to bring in the new belief and settle it on these 4 levels I was talking about.
Yeah, say them quickly again so I can get them down, because I want to put them in the show notes.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah, it's your core level.
Okay.
It's your soul level. It's your genetic level and your history level.
Oh, yes. Thank you. Well, that sounds interesting. And there'll be some references, folks, in the show notes, because Silke shared some books that would be relevant to this concept. There's one called Theta Healing by Viana Stiebel.
Yeah, so she is the founder of that mythology.
Very, very interesting. So when you do that, just another question that comes up as putting my psychiatric hat on here, do you do this in a relative trance state yourself in terms of finding these different things? So they're in a state at the time you're asking these questions and looking for guidance from them.
Yes. In Theta Healing and Rapid Transformation Therapy, you're in a kind of very relaxed state. And for the client, so that he's able or she is able to really connect to her subconscious and is not distracted what's really going on. Yeah, we have the prefrontal cortex and we need access to the hippocampus, which is more inside. Yeah, so we have to go a level more down, and therefore this relaxed state. And some, like yesterday, the client I had, he was always switching. Yeah, he was analyzing while he was still in the state. I had to always bring back, and later I said, maybe in your case, I should have brought you a little bit more deeper. Yeah, but it's him. Yeah, he is someone because he doesn't want to be trapped. And therefore, to be trapped now in a kind of trance state was difficult. So he went in and out. You have to bring him always back. The other people, it was more, I never had someone who was fearful because I'm very confident and I make also a short introduction to the people. And it's, of course, the rapport you build with the client. Yeah, and if they trust you and I explain them, it's just you go in a very relaxed state, that's it. And they feel I'm not manipulating it because in the beginning I establish a safe place, I establish a wise adult. So whenever some really strong emotions are coming up, they have always a safe place to go to. Or if they're still reprocessing after the session, they have an anchor. An anchor is like something, like a kinesthetic recording of a positive feeling. And they can just press that anchor, like your thumb and your forefinger. You have anchored a very positive state, and they can press it and they come back to a relaxed feeling.
Oh, that's interesting.
So we start off very safe, and then from there I say, okay, now we are going back in time. I don't start immediately.
Well, so take us into this next concept. So we've talked briefly about each one of these, and obviously they really require more time to fully understand them. But I think it's interesting because they are intertwined to some degree. We've talked about rapid transformation therapy, theta healing, neuro-linguistic programming. We haven't talked about much, but honestly, we've talked about it with other interviewees. So I think the next thing I would like us to please take some time on would be systemic constellation. Tell us a little bit about that, if you will, please.
Yeah. In fact, it's something which came from a German guy who borrowed something from Virginia Satir. So Virginia Satir was a very known psychiatrist or psychotherapist, and she worked with family members. So she said, okay, an illness is not only the client, it's also the members around. And then she put the family on stage. So she constellated family members. And the person who created it, family or constellation work, he worked with Virginia Satir. And he came to Germany, and he was a priest, a Catholic priest. He was also a missionary. What you do, you believe that a system also holds energy. And a family holds not only the energy between the family members, but also members who are not there, people who were maybe forgotten from the ancestral line, people who died early, certain miscarriages, abortions, people who were committed suicide, people who did certain things. And he calls it the secrets of the family, which were not really revealed to the next generation. A current family suffers, for example, from a depression. And it was first introduced in the psychiatric world in Germany. In the beginning, only psychotherapists and psychiatrists were allowed to use that method. And it was also, it replaced 10 sessions of normal talk therapy. What is done is there is a person who has, for example, a depression. And you're in a seminar workshop and you have different members, participants. And now the client is asked to select from the participants a representative for his father, the mother, siblings, and himself. And he puts these people into the stage. There is a defined place in the center. And the person puts these people in place. And now the magic happens. These people have never heard anything about this family, but they feel as these people would have felt. And this is like the magic is happening. There are certain energies between how you constellate representatives, what represents what is going on in the system of the family. And then you see where the distractions from the family system comes from. And then you bring up healing things. Sometimes you have to say, okay, I took over things which even belong to me. These were things my father was supposed to do. And then you do this exchange and say, I'm only your son and I give you back all the energy I've taken up from you. It's all yours. And then you become again in the right position. You're only the child and not the parent of your parent. Whatever the disconnection in that system was. And it's even used for organizations. If you have a problem in an organization, in a certain department, you also constellate the people in that department and you see where the dysfunctions are.
The dysfunctions would be really in a corporation more in terms of their expectations and their preoccupations that would be negative regarding their colleagues. And they'd have to actually come and bring it up. Now, I'm guessing, now I don't know this, I haven't done this before, but tell us a little bit about how that works, because that sounds quite interesting, and I'm sure a number of our do you have an example of maybe
of a kind of constellation work? Okay, the first time I experienced it, it was myself. I went to a seminar. I was brought by my psychotherapist at that time, and she had the option to go to a seminar with the big guy. So she brought us in, my sister and I, and we constellated our family. So we took people from the audience. In our case, the therapist did it for us. So she brought in people, my mother, my father, my sister, and me. And the strange thing was, it was actually how that family worked. The people who were, for example, me, I was more, it's too much for me, the family. I just want to be more at the side. Then in this case, it was the psychiatric background of my mother. This came also out because from the family, there were also a sister who died before her and who was still part of her family system. So the therapist brought in that dead child or the dead sister, then my aunt. And then he put us all in a kind of healing position. And as my sister and I were around, we went into our position. So the representative of me went to his chair and I stood in. And then he asked me, so how are you feeling now? And I said, very strange, I don't like it. And then he told me, do you know what? It's like an Eskimo who comes to Africa. He feels like that. And he says that in front of 100 people. I felt so ashamed. And I was really angry about him. But I really have to tell you the truth. My sister, we went home. We never spoke with anybody that we went to such a workshop. My mother changed. Her psychosis didn't come up anymore. It just resided.
Wow.
There were no strong episodes anymore. This was very incredible.
Thanks for listening to CoreBrain Journal.
I could not believe
We're
it.
working every day behind the scenes to bring you reports that connect research benches with those street trenches. Here we share the complexity of mind science because, as you know, details really do matter. One of the most pervasive, misunderstood challenges is how commonplace medications, like those written for ADHD, are used so regularly without clear guidelines.
But the major thing was
if you think you'd like more specifics, take a minute to download my 2-page PDF packed with video links and references on the absolute essentials of how to start ADHD medications. They're easily available at CoreBrainJournal.com/start.
They all came with the clients.
Thanks for listening.
That's interesting.
Do connect and stay tuned.
It's a very interesting conversation.
Together we can make a difference.
I'm going to ask you to summarize a little bit because we do have to wind up. But the issue would be, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to have references for all this conversation because there's so many interesting facets to it. They're on the show notes at CoreBrain Journal. And at this moment, she's going to be episode 264. What I'd like you to do in closing, Silk, is first of all, answer the question, do you do this kind of therapy virtually or do they need to come to Dubai?
I do it virtually. I do Theta Healing and transformational therapy. I do virtual and I do systemic work in a sense that people do it with symbols. Yeah, because we don't have representatives, human beings. Mm-hmm. I ask them, I guide them, okay, what is your problem? Constellate the problem. So I guide them. For example, a person came and said, I really have problems at my workplace. I told her, okay, constellate yourself, your boss, and your work. She constellated it with objects. Later, we found out that the same problem she has with her boss was the same issue she had with her father. The boss was just a representation of her father. And then we healed it from there. So I can do it virtual because I will ask people to constellate it and then send me a picture. And then we discuss it.
Oh, yeah. Very interesting. Well, in closing, sorry to close this up. I very much enjoyed, appreciate talking with you. Please give us the reference where we can find you. And then they'll also be on the show notes.
Yeah, the easiest way is to go to my website, Celia with like Charlie.com. And there you find all the links to my YouTube channel. You find free gifts. There's a free hypnotherapy session to guide you how to find your life's purpose. And then there's also a recording to boost your self-confidence. So you can find that on my website and you can get it for free.
So listeners, it's SILKCELIA, SilkCelia.com. Thank you so much, Silk, for coming on board. She actually spells her name SILKE in terms of just her first name, but the website is SILKCELIA. So great. Thank you so much for coming on board. Look forward to talking to you again in the future sometime. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very, very much, Dr. Parker. It was excellent. Time was just flying by. So we were in trance, yeah?
It really did. Yes, so. All right. Have a good one.
Thanks for listening to CoreBrain Journal. We're working every day behind the scenes to bring you reports that connect research benches with those street trenches. Here we share the complexity of mind science because, as you know, details really do matter. One of the most pervasive, misunderstood challenges is how commonplace medications, like those written for ADHD, are used so regularly without clear guidelines. If you think you'd like more specifics, take a minute to download my 2-page PDF packed with video links and references on the absolute essentials of how to start ADHD medications. They're easily available at CoreBrainJournal.com/start. Thanks for listening. Do connect and stay tuned. Together we can make a difference.